She led him down an unfamiliar trail, then vanished into thin air. Minutes later, two strangers appeared in the exact stretch of woods she'd chosen and started chasing him. If quiet, orchestrated horror is your thing, subscribe now, because this series only gets darker. Junior year of high school, there was a girl he couldn't stop thinking about, Sienna Rollins. Beautiful, but more than that. A mystique he could never quite decode. Not popular, not warm. People found her intimidating rather than approachable. He found her fascinating. He was writing a young adult fantasy story around that time and had named a character after her. Half obsession, half just liking the name. Walking upstairs with his friend George one day, discussing the story, he mentioned the character's name out loud right as the real Sienna turned the corner. She smirked, the closest thing to a smile he'd seen from her, and said something like, "Because you love me," or something. George laughed. He was mortified. She was already walking away. On impulse, he asked her out. That stopped her cold. An icy stare, no words needed. "How dare you?" Then, unexpectedly, she agreed. Gave him her number. Said she'd text him and walked off before he could respond. That weekend, Sienna drove them to a trail she'd picked. Somewhere he'd never been. Somewhere none of his friends had been either. 45 minutes felt like 10. He was so in his head. The gravel lot held maybe 2 other cars. She started walking immediately, no hesitation. The first 20 minutes were genuinely good. She was more talkative than he'd ever seen her, asking about his story, engaging. The trail narrowed. Trees thickened. No other hikers since the parking lot. At a fork, he asked which way. She pointed left instantly. He asked if she'd been here before. She said no. Strange, given how confident she seemed about the direction. The left fork was noticeably less maintained. He started sensing they'd taken a wrong turn, but didn't want to question her. At some point, walking single file with him in the lead, her suggestion, he realized he could no longer hear her footsteps behind him. He turned. The trail was empty. He called her name. No response. He walked back to the fork. She wasn't there either. No side trail she could have wandered onto. She was simply gone. He tried the right fork instead, even more overgrown than the left, barely resembling a trail at all. He kept calling her name, genuinely believing this had to be some kind of mistake. A branch snapped to his left, deep in the trees. Movement behind a thick trunk. His first thought, Sienna, messing with him, entirely on brand. He crept toward the tree, planning to turn the surprise back on her. At the last second, he jumped out to scare her. It wasn't Sienna. A tall, middle-aged man stood inches away, completely unfazed by the ambush. He stammered something about looking for his friend, useless in hindsight. The man said nothing, started walking toward him. He backed away, turned toward the trail, trying not to run. Then a second sound from his right. Another man, not even attempting to hide, standing in the open, watching him, holding what looked like a tree branch. That's when he ran. The second man blocked his path back to the main trail, so he ran blind through the woods with no direction. Both men gave chase immediately, no longer bothering to stay quiet. Something grabbed his ankle. He went down hard, the first man trying to pin him. He screamed, kicked wildly, somehow broke free. Scrambled up and kept running, mouth full of blood. He doesn't think they followed past that point. He didn't stop to check. Ran until he hit the main trail, then kept running all the way to the parking lot. Sienna's car was still there. The other 2 vehicles were gone. No sign of Sienna anywhere. Panic shifted immediately. Those men had gotten to her. She was in danger. He called her phone repeatedly. No answer. Just as he was about to call police, a text came through. "Where did you go?" He looked up and saw her walking out of the tree lane, completely calm. He yelled at her to hurry, tried explaining what had happened. She barely reacted, more irritated than alarmed. Told him he wasn't kidding, and she still seemed unmoved. They got in the car. He explained everything again on the drive. Still no real reaction from her. He demanded to know where she'd actually gone. She claimed she thought he'd walked ahead without her and had been trying to catch up the whole time. He knew that was a lie. He'd walked all the way back to the fork. There was no way he'd have missed her. That's when it hit him. She might have had something to do with what happened. The 45-minute ride home was the tensest of his life. He kept glancing at her, wondering if someone so calm and unbothered could be capable of something so calculated and cruel. He suspected, honestly, that the answer was yes. He couldn't stop connecting the pieces. Within minutes of her disappearing, two strangers materialized in exactly the stretch of woods she'd steered him into. The trail she'd picked, the fork she'd chosen, the position she'd arranged by having him take the lead. It felt orchestrated from the very first turn. And then she reappeared, entirely unharmed, casually asking where he'd gone. They never hung out again. He never reached out, and there was no chance she would have either. He's told this story to a handful of friends over the years. The reaction is always identical, that she set him up, that she knew both the trail and the men waiting in it. He has no explanation for why. He has no idea where Sienna is now. No social media presence. No trace of where she went after graduation. Some people don't need a motive you'll ever understand. They just need a trail, a fork, and someone willing to walk exactly where they're pointed.